Okay, like Billy said, my name is Dr. Steele. I've been a doctor of pharmacy for 35 years. I started at Cox back in '92, and then I just retired right when they said that we had to have the COVID vaccine. So I was able to take early retirement. And right in that same year, that's when I've been asked to speak. I've been asked to speak at different pediatric conferences because that's my specialty is pediatrics. And I was asked to speak at this conference on childhood obesity, and that was about 4 years ago. I said, sure, I'll talk about that. And really, I put together a slide presentation and all this stuff about the food pyramid, and if you want to lose weight, you gotta eat less calories and exercise more. Everything was just stupid. That makes now that I know, it's so stupid. But I thought, well, maybe there's more to this. So I started going to the literature and started reading about all the nutrition. I found out there's a whole world of nutrition out there that we were never taught. Your physicians do not know this. Your physicians do not know this. We are taught by the drug companies, and you don't realize how brainwashed we are. So what happened is once I realized how we've been duped and how nutrition is so important to stopping, reversing, preventing disease states, instead of just giving tablets and everything for symptoms, I had to get the word out there. So my last year while I was still working at Cox, I was working on writing books. Like people need to know what I just found out. And then, so that kind of leads me to my next slide, my disclaimer. I did write a book, and then my wife said, that's not gonna be enough. If you wanna really get people, you need to start a podcast. So 2 years ago, we started this podcast. It comes out every single week. And I'm not here promoting me. I'm just saying that this is who I am. I'm not selling anything. I'm not doing this. This is because I truly care about you guys' health. So I started a podcast. We just dropped our 171st episode, something like that. And then we put courses together, different courses. I do one-on-ones, whatever I need to do to get people to understand what's going on. So as I go through this talk, this is for you. If I start saying stuff and it's over your head, you're like, what the heck did you just say? Stop me. So, whoa, I don't understand. Ask me why, how. I mean, ask deep, because I can go deep on this because that's what I do. And that's how I realized what was happening, how we were being duped. So the first thing, just talk about health in general. Health in general, what we need. These are the things, when my wife and I came up, we call it news, the good news, NEWSS. Because that's what you need. You need nutrition, exercise, water, sleep, and sun. Those are huge. Nutrition is what I'm going to be talking about today. I'll just real briefly, just some of these things. Exercise, you do not have to exercise in order to lose fat, to lose weight. You don't need to at all. It has nothing to do with it. You will never get to your fat stores, depending on what your nutrition is, by exercising. It doesn't happen. However, walking is extremely important. You've got to walk. The main reason for walking is because just right along your blood, your veins and your arteries, you have what's called the lymphatic system. And your lymphatic system is attached to every single cell in your body, just like your blood, your arteries and veins are. And all the metabolic waste, because we're regenerating cells constantly. Our bodies are always tearing down, rebuilding, and that's what nutrition means. What does your body need to be able to rebuild, regenerate, do all the functions that a body needs? That's what nutrition is. And we've totally blown nutrition. So exercise, our heart pumps our blood. So that's where you get the blood flowing through our arteries and veins. We don't have anything to pump the lymphatic system. So the way it works is as you walk, as you move around, your muscle contracting, and that pumps that lymphatic system. If all you do is lay around, you wake up in the morning, you're sitting in the morning, you sit in the car, you sit in your office, you sit in the car, you sit in a restaurant, go home, sit down in front of the television and lay down. People don't move. And when you don't move, that all those toxins in the lymphatic system, they build up and they start getting out into your body and they start making you sick. Just the fact of walking around helps get those toxins out of your body. You don't need 10,000 steps. That was a whole mess. But they have shown that if you do that's great. But even if you only get 4,500 steps, they find your health does improve up to about 4,500 steps. And after that, it still is good, but that's where you see your big incline. So that's about 2 miles a day. And if you've got a pedometer, you'll realize it doesn't take that much to get there. You think 2 miles a day, but you just get it just from going around. Park far out. Don't try to park to the closest parking spot. Park far out. Take the stairs. Just whatever. Anyway, you have to walk. Everybody needs to walk. Water is extremely important. Every single reaction in our body. It needs water. Our water pumps all the nutrients to our cells, pumps it out. The amount of water that you should drink, because people are so mixed up on this. If you take your ideal body weight, not your actual body weight, so say you weigh 240 pounds, but you know you should weigh 180. Take the 180. So you weigh 180 pounds, divide that by 2, so that's 90. And that'll tell you how many ounces of water you should be drinking every single day. Okay? So not your actual body weight, your ideal body weight, divided by 2, and that's the number of ounces. And you don't have to sit there and count the ounces. Like with me, I need about 90 ounces. So, a little less. So I just have a water bottle that I have right here, 30 ounces. And so I know I need 3 of those water bottles in. Most people walk around in a dehydrated state. Because the things that in a dehydrated state, because they, instead of drinking water, they drink diuretics. They drink things that are going to make them pee more than what they're drinking in. The big 3 things: sugar, caffeine, and alcohol. Most people, if you look at what they have in their water bottles or drinking all through the day, it's going to be one of those. They're going to put sugar in their coffee, they're going to have sugar in their tea, they're going to have energy drinks, and they're going to have, soda pop and all this other crud, and then later on they may keep the same, they may switch to alcohol, but it's diuretic. So, if you do have that stuff, you need to have your ideal body weight divided by 2. You need that, and then if you drink one of those, you really ought to have that much water to replace the amount that you're doing.
How do you know what your ideal body weight is?
Well, I've got a graph that can actually show you, and it's really easy to find out what would be the ideal body weight for a male that's 5'6" or 5'9" or whatever, and it'll tell you. And like I said, I've got. If you want to know, I'm sure I've got the graph on here. I can show you. It's not in my talk, but I can show you what that is. But it goes by your sex and your weight. I mean your height is kind of how they're going to figure that out, and just to get you in the ballpark. So that's water. Sleep's very important. I'm not going to go into this. I've done an entire podcast on sleep. It is so important. What I didn't realize, and all this stuff is stuff that I just knew or just realized. Sleep is when your body does all its healing. All through the day, you're tearing your body up. You're exposed to chemicals. You're eating horrible stuff. You're exercising. You're moving. You're tearing your muscles down. All these things. When you finally lay down to sleep, there's specific phases that your body goes through, and it cycles through about every 45 minutes. That's about the phase, and then it depends on how many cycles you get through the night. But this is when all the stuff that goes on in your brain, all the chemical reaction in your brain, this is when it gets rid of. Remember I talked about the lymphatic system, and that's why you need to walk? The brain has what's called the glymphatic system, and does the exact same thing. It drains all the toxins and everything, or all the chemical metabolites out of the brain when you sleep. So you've got to have that. Same thing with building. That's when your muscles regenerate. That's when your body secretes growth hormone. That's when you're lifting weights and everything, that's when you're tearing your muscles down. It's while you sleep and what you eat that builds your muscles back up again. So I won't go into it, but sleep is very important. 8 hours. Everybody needs 7 to 9 hours sleep. And if you think you can go, I've got so many people say, I can live on 4 to 6 hours. Bull. You cannot. And you have no idea how you're tearing up your body when you do that kind of stuff. So whatever time you're trying to get up in the morning, just plan to go to bed 8 hours prior to that, and that's going to be the best way to do it. But anyway, and then sun. We've been duped on sun too. Sun, and we are just now starting to find out how important the sun rays are. We're finding out the ultraviolet lights, the infrared lights, everything, and it's not just the skin. They actually penetrate into your skin and they're affecting the organs, and we're finding out how important that is. Now that we've been lied to again, they got everybody scared of sun cancer, so everybody, can't go out in the sun, you gotta put sunscreen on, you gotta put all these things on. Bull. Sunscreens have so many chemicals on it, that's just more toxins you're putting in your body. Chemicals are what's making us toxic. You do not want to burn. Just be smart about it. Go out in the sun for a little bit early in the summer, come back in, go out in the sun, come back in, and eventually your body's gonna get tanned, it's gonna get better, so it can be. I've been wearing sunscreen in the last couple of years, and we were out in the sun all the time. We go to the swimming pool, we go to the lake, we're with friends, all the time. You just get your body used to it, because you don't want to. That's the last thing you want to do is put a bunch of stuff off that's blocking the rays. Why would God give us the sun? I mean, we all need sun. The plants, the animals, everybody needs sun. That's what we're finding out is the more you go toward the man-made stuff, the more you're getting away from God. And that is not a good thing to do, and that's why we're seeing the stuff we're doing. Anyway, I'll go on. The rest of it's going to be about nutrition.
Can I
yes.
say one thing about that?
Yes.
You're cracking me up. I tell people, Dairy Farmers of America convinced us that milk does the body good. And a same body convinced us that the sun is bad.
Yeah.
Not Dairy Farmers of America, but the same type of government advertisement is what told us.
This is all money. This is all money.
All
If you haven't realized that, yeah, this is money. And drug companies, food companies, chemical companies, the sugar industry, big ag with corn, soy, and wheat, they're making trillions of dollars off sick people. So that's where this is.
And the same
So nutrients. So nutrients are basically the two big categories. There's micronutrients and macronutrients. Micronutrients are called micronutrients because they're small. They're measured in milligrams and micrograms. That's your vitamins and minerals. I will not be talking about vitamins and minerals today. Macronutrients, those are called macronutrients. They're measured in grams. There's 3 macronutrients. There's protein, fat, and carbohydrates. When you leave today, I want to make sure you know exactly what each one of these does inside the body and why they're important and why some are killing us. Okay? Because one is. So, protein. Protein. Every single thing in your body is made out of protein. Everything you touch, your skin, your muscles, your organs, your blood, a lot of hormones are made out of protein. Everything is made out of protein. We need lots of protein. Each one of these, our blood does not see what we put in our mouth. Okay? You eat all this food, your body jumps in, and your stomach, your intestines, that sees what you're eating. And it breaks it all down to the basic building blocks. And that's all our blood sees, basic building blocks. So, with protein, when this gets broken down to the basic building block, it's called an amino acid. Okay? Think of it like a little Lego block. Now, of the protein, these little amino acids, if you take all the protein in all the animals and all the plants, there's only 20 amino acids. There's only 20. But of those 20 amino acids, our body makes up to 20,000 different proteins. And some of these proteins are 27,000 amino acids long. The only reason I say that is because we need protein. We've got to have a lot of protein. If you don't give it the protein that you need, like these people who are on these GLP-1 agonists, if you don't give yourself the protein, it's going to steal it from your muscles in order to preserve the organs. Your body, just like you can cut off your arms and legs and you're still living, you're still fine. Your body protects its organs. That's why people on these GLP-1 agonists, most of the weight off, a lot of over 50% of the weight that they lost is from muscle loss because it's auto cannibalism. They're eating themselves from the inside out. That's why these GLP-1s are horrible. Yeah. Microdosing, there's different phases. But anyway, of those amino acids, of those 20, 9 of them are called essential, meaning your body does not make them. You have to get them from the food you eat. So you have to eat protein to get those. Fatty acids, same thing. Fat, the basic building block of fat is fatty acids. Okay? There are 2 essential fatty acids, omega-3 and omega-6. Again, means your body does not make them. You have to get it from the food you eat. Okay? So that's fatty acids. Carbohydrates, the basic building block of carbohydrates is glucose. That's all carbohydrates are, just long chains of glucose. So if you pick up a product and it says there's 50 grams of carbohydrates, that means there's 50 grams of glucose. It doesn't matter how much sugar's in there, and I'll make sure you know exactly what I'm talking about. But you don't even have to look at the sugar. Just look at the carbohydrates. If there's 50 grams of carbohydrates in something, in 1 teaspoon has about 2 grams of glucose. So if you have 25 grams, that's basically like sugar. Sugar is 4 grams in 1 teaspoon. So if you have 50 grams of carbohydrates, divide that by 2, that means you're eating about 25 teaspoons of sugar. That's not quite true, and I'll show you exactly the difference between blood glucose and sugar. But so carbohydrates, as far as glucose, there's no such thing as essential glucose. You never, ever, ever have to put a plant-based food in your mouth, and you will live perfectly fine. Animal products have all the vitamins, all the minerals, all the protein, all the fat, all the cholesterol, which is vital to us. That's a lie also about cholesterol. Animal food has all that, okay? So you don't have to worry about this. But, and I'm not against fruits and vegetables, but there's a time, and there's a time, and there's an amount, and there's different kinds, and we'll talk about that too. But the fact is, you do not need glucose. Your body can make all the glucose it needs out of fat, and all the glucose it needs out of protein. You do not need it, which is horrible because since our dietary guidelines came out in 77, they tell everybody should be eating nothing but carbohydrates and stay away from animal meat, and it's money. It is money, money, money. So this is it. When you think about nutrition, what you mean is what is our body made out of and what does our body need? And it's the same thing. It needs what it's made out of because it's constantly regenerating new cells all the time. So if you shred our bodies down, what's in there? Amino acids, fatty acids, fat, cholesterol, vitamins, minerals, and water. That's it. Your glucose stores are tiny, and our glucose is only supposed to be used for fight or flight energy. That's been hijacked too, because now everybody uses glucose as their main energy source, and that's why everybody's dying. Oh, can you tell?
It's in plastic, but it's bottled.
I got a water bottle. There's
It's
not
in
water
glass.
in it.
It was in glass starting out.
You're trying to kill me in my own talk. Did you spit in it?
Some microplastics for you.
She stirred it
Is
up.
this mine or was that yours?
I did do that at the event though. You were like, I need some water. I handed you my water bottle.
Yeah, no, I vomited that whole night. But anyway, so that's what we need. We need the stuff that our body can use to regenerate. That's what's important. And most carbohydrates are not there. So, what are carbohydrates? Like I said, carbohydrates are just long chains of glucose. That's all it is. And glucose is what is killing us, and you'll see that. This is table sugar. This is flour. Flour is powdered glucose. That's all. It's just powdered glucose. Flour is bitter. Flour is sweet. It's the fructose and sugar that is sweet. But carbohydrates, this is just plain carbohydrates. Okay, so that's why they say stay away from sugar, stay away from flour. They say stay away from flour because it's just pure glucose. However, fruits and vegetables are glucose as well. You know, and I'll get into that. But anyway, that's where you see. But where you see it the most is all this chemical-based, lab-made food. It's not being raised in a pasture. It's not being grown on a farm. It's being made in a lab with nothing but chemicals: glucose, fructose, chemicals, and seed oils. Toxic. Every single ingredient in those are toxic. Anything in a box, bottle, bag, and can. And the chemicals are what's causing all the inflammation in everybody. We are bombarded with it. So, and like I said, glucose equals carbohydrates. It's the exact same thing. So, just so you know, and I'm not going to get scientific, this is glucose. Okay? This, just long chains of glucose are carbohydrates. This is fructose. Fructose is the sugar you find in fruits, and then in sugar and high fructose corn syrup. So you don't patients see them. Stay away from the sugar, stay away from the high fructose corn syrup, and eat your fruits sparingly, okay? And only when, all your fruits and vegetables should only be eaten seasonally. If it's not growing right now, don't be eating it. Because I guarantee it's genetically modified and it has been changed. If you're eating strawberries in the middle of December, you're eating chemicals. You're eating genetically modified stuff. Okay? So that's why it's always best, go to a farmer's market. If you want fruits and vegetables, go to a farmer's market. You know it's seasonally because it's there. You know, they're not going to take stuff and hold it back in their shed because the healthy stuff rots. That's why there's no healthy stuff in man-made food. They need to keep it on the shelf for long periods of time. They need to ship around. So you're not finding healthy stuff in food. So now, this is table sugar. This is called sucrose. Okay? These are called monosaccharides. It's a disaccharide. Sugar is 50% glucose, 50% fructose. High fructose corn syrup is the exact same thing, only it's got 55% of fructose and only 45 glucose. Fructose is toxic. Every single cell in our body knows how to use glucose. It can use glucose. Not that it's supposed to, but it knows how to do it. Nothing uses fructose. So fructose, when you eat that, anything with sugar, high fructose corn syrup, all that, it goes straight to the liver. The liver turns that into triglycerides, and that stores it as fat. Okay, that's what happens every time. It all gets turned into fat, and you'll find out glucose too. Just like glucose. How do they fatten up cattle? You raise them out on a farm, they grass fed. What do they do right before they go to slaughter? Grains. They grain feed them. So that's all that is. They just give them a bunch of glucose and then they fatten them up and now their weight's higher so everybody can make more money off the meat and everything. And it's fine, but the glucose makes you fat. How do bears? Yes.
Steve, just quickly, are you going to cover soy protein isolates at all? What's the molecule look like roughly for a soy protein isolate? Well, like all the protein shakes have that and everything. Is it very close to this?
They're going to have glucose in them, yeah.
Okay.
It's all anything from fruits and vegetables. They're made out of carbohydrates.
But they call it protein.
There's protein too, because there's protein, and I'll talk about that. I'll show that.
Okay,
yeah,
thank you.
I'll show you. But anyway, so and then fructose. Think of how do bears What do they do to hibernate?
Berries.
They go around, they forage on the berries. Right. So forage on berries, build up, and then they go to sleep for a year. We eat all these berries and then we keep on eating more berries. That's what we do. So both of these are very, very obesogenic. It means they actually cause obesity. So that's it. Blood glucose. So then when they say blood sugar, all they're talking about is glucose. So you see the difference between sugar, blood sugar, sugar, table sugar. But it's basically the same thing. And all these chemicals up here are dangerous. They're all dangerous to your health, depending on the quantities. So the main food groups that we have, we call these two columns, these are God-made food. This is all your animal-based food, and these are your fruits and vegetables. This is man-made food. This is lab-made food. This is toxic. Everything, and I'll show you exactly what I'm talking about. But as you see, remember when I said what are our bodies made out of? Made out of protein, fat, cholesterol, vitamins, minerals, water. Why do animals have the same stuff we do? Because we're animals. Of course we're going to have all the nutrients that we need. They both have protein, but now instead of fat, they have carbohydrates. In nature, you will never see anything that has both fat and carbohydrates together. It doesn't happen. You have protein and fat, protein and carbs. The only time you see fat and carbohydrates together is with the toxins. Everything. Your pizzas, donuts. I mean, think of all the stuff that has all the grease in it and it's loaded with sugar. That's your carbohydrates and that's your fat. And we'll talk about the fats too. But in nature, you're not going to find those two together because they're both used for energy. Now, fat is used for a ton of stuff, and I'll go through that also. But the key, the closer you stay to this side, the healthier you're going to be. And if you stay nothing like, if you stay exactly with this and don't eat any of this, you'll probably be healthier than you've ever been. And it does not take very long. And we have people in here who have done it, and they can tell you.
Wait, before I have a question about
Yes.
explain plant-based protein. What does that mean?
That's what I was talking about.
Protein is protein. Protein are amino acids. That's all it is. And plants, just like I said, that you can feel that's protein. The plants are made out of protein too. They have protein. They're a little bit different amino acids, but they're similar. So people, if that's all they eat is fruits and vegetables, you'll see the protein is very, very small. The fat and cholesterol are practically non-existent. So you're not getting the protein, you're not getting these. And when you're doing that, and they say, oh yeah, well, let me just go to the next slide.
Sorry.
This is protein. What I did was I went to AI. I said, give me a chart. I want the 10 fruits that had the highest concentration of protein. I want the 10 vegetables that had the highest percentage of concentration of protein. And then I just want 5 typical meats. This is what you get. This is the protein of the fruits. This is the protein you see in vegetables. This is the protein you see in meat. You don't get anywhere near the protein when you're doing this. And in order to do this, you're going to have to eat a lot of this. Well, when you eat a lot of this, what's the other thing you're going to be getting a lot of? Glucose, exactly. So it's not a view, oh, I eat nothing but fruits and vegetables, or I eat nothing but animals. It's what does our body need? What does nutrition mean? And that is what's important. You're not getting anywhere near the protein.
And Steve, on top of that, one of my family members has been a vegan for 30 years. But what happens is they buy those modified foods that taste like Chick-fil-A, or they taste like McNuggets or whatever, and that stuff is loaded with all the seed oils and all that stuff. So they think they're eating healthy, but they're actually poisoning their bodies.
Yes,
it's horrible.
That's true.
Yeah.
And you're asked about soy. This said edamame, which are soybeans. So again, you do get some protein in there, but not even close. But it is the highest of all the other ones.
Yeah.
So,
yeah.
but then you have to worry about soy,
Right.
which that's a whole nother thing is what soy does. Yeah.
Yep.
Can you get too much protein?
Your body, if you're eating correctly,
No.
physiologically, you're not going to be able to eat enough because you're going to be. Which is the other thing. This stuff, all these carbohydrates and everything, they are produced to keep you hungry. Food companies are a business. They are here for their shareholders. If they can give you food and it makes you continuously hungry, you're going to keep eating their food, and that's exactly what they do. So let's go somewhere. Answer the question one more time.
When you eat too much protein.
Yeah, you eat too much protein. It'd be very hard to do because when you eat protein and fat, that actually, there's a lot of reasons. It's very satiating. It makes you full for all kinds of reasons. There's cholecystokinin and peptide YY in the intestine that is stimulated by protein and fat. Goes to the brain, says, I'm not hungry, don't eat anymore. That's gone. Carbohydrates don't stimulate that. That's just one example. There are so many different examples of why that food actually is made to make you more hungry. Protein and fat, that's why I eat once a day. I can eat twice a day, whatever. But I'm not hungry. Even when I ask my wife, I'm not hungry when it's time to eat because I've given my body the nutrients that it needs.
Can I
So,
make a comment on that, Steve?
no, I'd rather not. You only have 15
There are people who are morbidly obese, 600, 700 pounds, who die from malnutrition.
Yeah,
So what he just said, he's nourished, so he doesn't eat a lot.
yeah, big difference.
So just so you know, when I say animal-based food, I'm not just talking about meat. I'm talking about anything comes from an animal. So milk comes from an animal. So milk, Greek yogurt, cottage cheese, cream cheese, eggs, scrambled eggs, cheese. I mean, all this stuff, anything, it gives you the nutrients that your body needs. It's all made out of the same thing. Protein, fat, I won't belittle it or belabor it. This is what I'm talking about plant-based foods. All this has carbohydrates. The plants that grow below the ground have starch in general, like potatoes and sweet potatoes. Starch are just long chains of glucose. If you have trouble with glucose, stay away from the plants that grow below the ground. Definitely stay away from the lab-made food. That stuff is toxic. But if you want to have the plants grow above the ground, you're fine. If you're built, if you're in good shape and everything, your body can handle a little bit more because your muscles know how to handle this stuff. But it still doesn't want the toxins. You still want the chemicals and all that. So you still want natural foods. So it kind of depends on your health status, where you are. If you're really obese, you're trying to lose weight, trying to get off medication or type 2 diabetic medications. If you eat fruits and vegetables at all, definitely stay away from the ones that are below the ground. And again, eat them all seasonally. Now the plant-based or the lab-based foods. That's exactly what you think of. It's everything that's in a box, bottle, bags, cans and jars. All your fast food restaurants. Look at all this crap. It's got carbohydrates and fat just mixed all through it. Try to find the protein. I mean, it's like a Where's Waldo? I don't know what protein is. And then obviously your baked goods. Infant formulas, toxic. They're made from drug companies, from food companies. It's the same crap. It's seed oils. It's high fructose corn syrup. Some of these infant formulas have up to 50% high fructose corn syrup in it, and seed oils. Look at them. Look at the back of them. This stuff is crazy, and they've convinced these mothers that that's so much better than breastfeeding because breastfeeding is going to be a hassle or blah 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 blah. You use our food, and that's why we have an epidemic of obese 6-month-olds today. It's ludicrous what's going on. So, the key. I actually did a whole podcast on this. I can solve your health issues in one sentence. Keep your insulin levels low. And that's what I'm going to spend the rest of the time proving that to you. It's all about keeping your insulin levels low. That's it. Okay, insulin is a storage hormone. That's what it does. It takes your food and it puts it in different places. So the 3 pillars of disease, okay, is when you have high insulin levels, inflammation throughout your body, and high blood glucose levels. Okay? These 2 happen decades, 20, 30, 40, 50 years before you ever see this. And I'll explain to you exactly why that is, okay? So I'm going to have to go kind of deep on some of this, but I want to really make sure that you understand it when I say the stuff that I do as I go through the talk. The biggest thing you have to realize, if you don't remember anything else, remember, when your blood insulin levels are high, it forces you to store fat. You cannot burn it. And I will show you exactly to the molecular reason why in just a little bit. When your insulin levels are low, it makes you burn your own fat for your energy source, like God made us to do from the beginning of time. What we're supposed to do is eat, fill up our food stores, and then go for times that we're not eating and we're exercising and doing all that. And then we burn the fat for our fat stores. But since the drug companies came out with the food companies came out with all their stuff in our dietary guidelines, all we do is stuff. We keep our insulin levels high all day long. anymore because of all the stuff I just showed that people are sitting there munching on all day long. It's crazy. So this comes in later. So the question is, well, first, what makes your insulin levels go up? Okay, fat. When you eat fat, it doesn't affect your insulin levels at all. So this whole crap about eating fat is what makes you fat is a bull-faced lie. No studies, no, it makes no sense. When you see, the only thing that makes you fat is having high insulin levels. It's the only way you store fat. The only thing that's going to get you the fat out is having your low insulin levels. So fat itself doesn't do anything. Fat is used for so many different things in the body, and I'll show you that. Protein can make your insulin levels go up a little bit, and I think the reason why that is because mainly if you eat meat, because as you'll see in a little bit, unless I bypassed it, every single one of our our skin cell, our muscle fibers, every single one, 1% of it is glycogen, which is glucose stores. That's glucose stores, like little glucose bricks. Every single muscle cell has glycogen, but it's only good for that one muscle because it's there for our fight or flight. We need to be able to act really fast. We want the energy right there. We don't have time to be breaking things down. That's why it's supposed to be there. So I think that's why if you eat meat, sometimes you'll see your glucose go up a little bit, but it'll come back down if you're eating healthy. The God-made glucose, again, we talked about, this is what I've already talked about. The ones that grow above the ground have less glucose. The ones that grow below the ground have more glucose in it because that's the starch for the plant. Eat your fruits. All these smoothies and everything that everybody makes and think they're being so healthy, that is not healthy. All these smoothies that you drink, they tear the fiber up. If you eat mainly animal-based food, you do not need fiber. Fiber is not something you have to have. If you eat a lot of plants, you do need fiber because the plants get broken down to glucose and they get absorbed real quick, and fiber keeps those in the intestines for longer so it can get down and start feeding the gut bacteria they have, which is a whole other thing. But, so, when you drink it, you break all the fiber down. So now you're getting all the glucose, all the fructose, because they usually have that in there too, and then you don't have any fiber. So you drink it and it goes immediately into your liver and starts getting metabolized. It is not any healthier. It is so hard to sit here and eat 8 oranges. Just eat 8 oranges. You can't do it because of all the fiber and everything's in it. But if you squeeze those 8 oranges into orange juice, guzzle does, hey, can I have another drink? And it's all that fructose. It's all that and glucose. It's all that you're getting. So eat it, don't drink it. Man-made glucose, obviously, all this lab-made food. They put it in there for purpose. They put it on there to keep you hungry and keep you eating this stuff. So, what is type 2 diabetes? Everybody is taught. I was taught. I worked in the medical field for 35 years. I was taught diabetes is a problem of high blood glucose. That is a lie, and they know it's a lie. But diabetes is insulin resistance. It just so happens glucose makes your insulin go up. Okay, so yes, glucose is involved, but glucose is a symptom. Insulin resistance is the problem. So before you leave, you will know exactly what I mean by insulin resistance, which I did not know. I've been a doctor of pharmacy for 35 years. I didn't learn this until about 4 years ago. It's the crazy. So don't blame your physicians. They had no idea that the information they're giving is from drug companies.
Steve?
Yeah.
Do they ever measure insulin in blood work, normal blood work?
What a great question. No, doctors don't order insulin levels. Ask them and they'll say, why do you want an insulin level?
Yeah.
They aren't taught. Why? Because they are taught by the drug companies. They're the ones who do the studies. They're the ones who put it in the journals, pay people for the journal, pay people for the peer reviews, pay for all the conferences that they go to all around the world. Drug companies are paying for everything. And so they're the ones, and it gets way deeper than that. But that's the deal. They don't do this. You can't. Just real quick, since you brought it up, you can draw your own insulin level. You can draw all your blood levels. There's a place called, go online, it's called Own Your Own Labs. Own Your Own Labs? Own Your Labs. Own Your Labs. Own Your Labs. Own Your Labs. You go on there and you have all this list of, I want that, and I want that, and I want that, and you just click what you want. It'll have the price next to each one. You print out a sheet. You take it into LabCorp or Quest. Those are 2 places around here that draw your blood. They know exactly what to do with it. My wife did it. She sat down, did it, got the paper, took it in. Within the week, she got her insulin level back. $15. That's all it cost. So now we know. We know where her insulin level was. And it was great. The other problem is because most studies are done off unhealthy people, off sick people. So the ranges You'd be amazed where they come up with ranges. It is not a scientific
Can I
thing.
tell you how they do that?
Uh-huh.
How they come up with
Go ahead.
So I'm gonna use estrogen, because I'm a woman. So they take, every year, all the labs get together, and they take the range of everybody that they have tested. What was
Which are usually
lowest,
sick people.
what was the highest level of this estrogen. And then they say, oh, these are the new ranges. So if you look back at your labs, even just 5 years, you will see a difference in what is acceptable or what is the normal range. Look at your thyroid, look at your hormones, look at your blood glucose levels, look at your white blood cells, look at your inflammatory markers. All of those have changed based on how the general population is.
It's really crazy. And even this, when you go on there, her lab said that an insulin level less than 20 was good. That is a lie. That is a lie. That is taken off people who are mostly diabetic. Even whether they know they're diabetic or not, if you're obese, you're diabetic. Or you're pre-diabetes at least. And you'll see exactly what I mean by that. But, so they say under 20 is fine, but really you want your level less than 5 and really preferably around 3. That's where your insulin level should be. Okay?
Yeah.
And I'll explain all this to you, I promise. So what happens is basically you start tearing up your blood vessels. When you have high blood glucose, you have inflammation throughout the body, and you have high insulin levels, you start tearing up your blood vessels. You tear up the smaller ones first, and that's when you see the normal triad of diabetes. It tears the ones up in the eye for retinopathy, the ones in the kidneys for nephropathy, and in your nerves and your brains for your neuropathy. Those are the first ones that are affected. But you keep getting the same stuff over and over again, and now this is where you get all the other things. That's why I call diabetes. Diabetes, it's not like I have high blood pressure and have diabetes. Diabetes is an umbrella. If you have high inflammation, high insulin, and high glucose, you're killing every single organ in your body.
Yep.
Every single organ in your body. So that's why you get the heart disease, yeah, but you get strokes, peripheral vasculitis, Alzheimer's is called type 3 diabetes.
Yep.
Look it up in your studies, it's type 3 diabetes.
Yep.
Cancer. Cancer feeds off glucose. If you keep glucose out of your mouth, you could keep cancer out of your body, and you definitely can make it better. Even if you choose to go the medical route, eating healthy and keeping glucose, and if I had cancer, I am carnivore. I am eating not a single plant-based food. I am strictly animal-based food if I get cancer. Which I kind of am now because I want to keep from getting cancer. Fatty liver disease. Fatty liver disease used to always be from alcohol. Always.
Yeah.
Not anymore. Not anymore now. 80 to 90% of all the fatty liver disease you see is from diabetics. People who, because of their nutrition. And we're seeing teenage kids and even younger now with fatty liver disease.
Yeah.
It is crazy. And all of this is from the exact same thing. What I'm going to tell you in the rest of this talk, it's what's causing this. Infection, skin and nail. A lot of people can't get pregnant anymore. All this stuff causes erectile dysfunction and in women, polycystic ovarian syndrome, PCOS. That is a big problem. This is insulin. It's high insulin. Our bodies are not supposed, insulin tears our bodies to pieces. Sugar, glucose, tears our bodies to pieces. Inflammation, these chemicals tear our bodies to pieces. So whenever you have this, each one of those individually does it. When you put them together, we're walking time bombs. You know, we really are. And then atherosclerosis, and I'm going to teach you exactly what atherosclerosis is. So, this is the key. This is the other key. One, insulin, high, store fat, low, burn fat. This is the other one. Everybody's asking, how do I get my glucose down? How do I get my glucose down? I need medicine. I need supplements. That's not the question. It's why is your glucose going up in the first place? That's the question you need to know. Because you're going to find out from me that there are 2 ways. There's only 2 ways that your blood glucose goes up. This is what I was going to tell you about. One, okay, stress. When you're stressed, okay, you're in a fight or flight situation. When you get stressed, our bodies, they release epinephrine, adrenaline, and then also release cortisol from our adrenal glands. Cortisol, through a little bit of processes, causes our liver. I think I did pass, I don't know if I passed it up or not, but we only have 10% of our liver has glucose stores. 10% of our liver, 1% of each skeletal muscle. That's it. That's it. Because it's supposed to be for fight or flight. Okay? We're supposed to be using our fat for energy source. So when you are stressed, cortisol causes your liver to break that glycogen down, put glucose into your blood. But what you're supposed to do is deal with your stress. Your body produces insulin. You're dealing with stress. Now glucose comes down and it's come back down. And then you start eating your fat again. That's what's supposed to happen. So if you are chronically stressed, that also is going to be raising your glucose levels and keeping you sick, okay? So you got to figure out how to take care of stress. Oh, actually it was on this slide. Yeah, so our liver has 10% in liver, about 400 calories. Our muscles come up about another 2,000 calories. So if you take all the glucose in your body and you use that for energy, it's about 2,400 calories. That's it. That's how many calories it takes for you to sleep for 24 hours. Your basal metabolism of the heartbeat and the brain doing its thing, the intestines moving, will burn about 2,400 calories in 24 hours. That's it. Do you really think God did that? You think He gave us that the only thing you can use for energy is carbohydrates, and when you run out, you're going to die? Of course not. He gave it so we can do fat. That's why we have fat cells all over our body. 1 pound of fat, 1 pound of fat has 4,000 calories. Okay? So if you're 10 pounds overweight, you got 40,000 calories on board. That is more than you need. But when you take 1 pound of fat compared to all the glucose stores in your body, you do not need glucose. And that's why you can make all the glucose you need out of protein and fat, because it doesn't take that much. The other thing, if you take all the blood out of your system and you spin it down and pull the glucose out, it comes about 2 teaspoons of sugar. That's all. Now compare that to 1 10-ounce can of pop, or 12-ounce can of pop has, 12-ounce can has 10 teaspoons of sugar in 1 can. And think of all the soda pop, energy drinks, fruit juices. They lie about so much stuff. Fruit juices. They put names on things to make you think it's healthy, and it's just toxic as heck. So 2 teaspoons. All the glucose you need is going to get turned to fat. And I'm going to explain exactly how that happens, okay? So we don't need glucose. We don't have glucose. Our body doesn't like glucose. But yet that's what we eat constantly all through the day, every day. That's why we're sick. Okay? So, just as a reference, 2 teaspoons, back in 1965, they estimated that that's what we ate. We ate the average of 2 teaspoons per person per day. Go down to 2015, they re-estimated that and found out it's gone up to 65 teaspoons of sugar per person per day. This is literally, and you think, oh, there's no way. I just showed you all the pictures of all the man-made food, lab-made food. It's nothing but glucose. It's nothing but glucose. And again, you don't even have to look at how much sugar, because that's really telling you is how much fructose there is, which again is toxic, but just look at the number of carbohydrates. That's all you need to do. So, 65 teaspoons, and again, the recommended daily allowance of glucose, what you actually have to have is 0. There is none. You do not need it at all, and yet everybody's eating it constantly. So, the only other way you get high blood glucose is you eat it. That's the only way. That is the only way your blood glucose goes out. So it's not a question of how do you get the glucose down. It's a question of quitting glucose. We all have that. We had that choice.
Steve?
Yes.
Do seed oils affect your glucose level? Are you going to get into that?
No.
Does seed oils, does it cause insulin
Seed
issues?
oils?
Yes.
I don't. The only reason I would think of it is because there's a little bit of gluten. Seed oils are mostly chemicals.
Right.
Mostly chemicals. Seed oils are made out of petrochemicals. They're made out of bleaching agents. They're made out of deodorizing agents. Because if you've ever seen a film or anything of how they make seed oils, it is disgusting. It's chemical. And they say it stinks so bad on the assembly line that they had to wear respirators because the smell is so bad. Seed oils are toxic chemicals, cause inflammation throughout, and they put it in everything. If you get anything fried out, it's got seed oils. They don't, because it's cheap. It didn't used to be, McDonald's used to use tallow. Tallow is beef fat, lard is pig fat, and McDonald's even used to use tallow until they came out with all this seed oils and everything. Now they switched. Slowly, thank God, for Robert F. Kennedy Jr., he started making people more aware of this. And slowly, we have like Steak and Shake and Buffalo Wild Wings. A few people are actually starting to switch over and start using tallow again. But that's the problem of going out and eating anything fried out. You get seed oils, and seed oils are toxic.
Yeah.
You have no idea. The inflammation, if you wake up and you have joint pain, you move around on your back, and it's seed oils. I guarantee you that has almost, and fructose. Fructose gets certain inflammatory mediators also. But this is why you eat it. So, when you eat glucose, your body releases the insulin. There's 3 things that your body does with glucose, with the insulin. The first thing it does is if you're walking, if you're moving, if you eat and then go for a walk, the glucose that you just ate, you just put your blood, which glucose gets in the blood very quickly. Carbohydrates, they start getting broken down glucose in the mouth. Okay, that's what's called amylase in the saliva. So it starts bringing it right down now, because your body does not want a high glucose. So it tries to get it broken down, and that's why it starts. And it also, you just look at food, and a lot of times your body's gonna start getting insulin ready. It's ready because it knows it does. So you eat it, and it gets broken into glucose, and it gets shunted straight over the liver, and this is what happens. First, it goes into the blood. If you're doing any kind of activity after you eat, then the glucose could be used for that activity. But like I said, you're not calorie-wise. If you lift heavy weights, good resistance training for 1 hour, hard, you're gonna burn up about 400, 800 calories. That's it. You are not burning up a lot of calories, especially compared to the amount of calories you're probably eating in a meal. You're not gonna touch that with walking. It's good to walk, still do it, and your glucose will come down a little bit, but that's not gonna be your answer to health. The other thing it does, after it uses it for whatever immediate needs, but if you just eat and sit down and watch television or something like that, you're not using anything. So it's all going to the second phase. Second phase is it fills up and refills your glycogen stores. So if the 10% in your liver's gone, it'll refill that. If you've got some in your skeletal muscles, it'll refill that. Most people don't have to worry about it because most people have plenty of glucose on board and they're refilling those all the time. So almost every single bit of carbohydrates, glucose, remember the same thing, glucose, all the glucose goes straight to the liver, and the liver, because God made us to survive. That's why we do this. So the liver turns every single one of that glucose, turns it into triglycerides in a form of fat, and then insulin tells the liver, turn this into triglycerides, then it tells the cell, store these. So that's what I'm getting ready to explain to you also now, because I really want you guys to understand this. Okay, like I said, God's intended use, fight or flight, and fat storage. That's why God wanted us to use glucose. Okay? Man's intended use, they want you using glucose for everything. So as soon as you start getting a little tired, oh, eat some more glucose. Oh, now you go, and then all of a sudden you get tired and you eat some more glucose. They love that stuff. Keeps you hungry. It keeps you hungry, and you are giving them lots of money. So thank you for all the trillions of dollars that we're giving to these food companies. Glucose, used for energy, period. That's it. This is all the stuff that fat does. Fat's used for everything. It helps cushion joints, helps cushion your organs. It helps with your fat-soluble vitamins A, D, E, and K. It helps with a lot of your hormones are produced from this. So, fats and cholesterol are vital to our health. It is not, please realize, if you don't realize by the end of this, we're being duped. The food companies are here for them. They're here for their shareholders. They are not here for your health. So, since we're talking about triglycerides, I want to make sure you know exactly what's going on because this is important. Triglyceride. This is why it's called a triglyceride. A triglyceride, remember I said the basic building block of fat is fatty acids? So you have that. So your liver has all these fatty acids, and the glucose that's turned into these. It attaches 3 fatty acids to a glycerol backbone. That's why it's called a triglyceride. That's why it's called a triglyceride. You'll see when this triglyceride, the body produces all this triglycerides in the liver. And the body also produces 80% of all the cholesterol that our body uses. 80% of it is produced from the liver, which is good. It's not if you think fat and cholesterol are bad, get that out of your mind right now. You're being duped, and get that out of your mind. Because fat and cholesterol are vital. So now you have this triglyceride. This is what you'll find. I'm going to tell you this, and then I'm going to tell you it again in another slide, just a little bit. This great big triglyceride is too big to go through the fat cell membrane. It can't do it. Okay, this is important. So what happens is you have to cleave these off. So instead of having a triglyceride, you actually have 3 free fatty acids. So each one of those can cross across the cell membrane of the fat cell. Does that make sense? Okay? Because I'm going to explain it even deeper in just a little bit, but I want you to understand that. So that's what we're doing is cleaving these off so those can go into the fat cell. Once they're inside the fat cell turns it back into triglycerides, and they're stored until they're needed. And if you continue to eat carbohydrates, they're never needed. They just keep getting bigger and bigger. So, how do they get out of the liver? Okay, they tell you VLDLs and LDLs are cholesterol. That is not cholesterol. These are transport vehicles. I call them fatmobiles. Okay? What a fatmobile does, and this stands for very low density lipoprotein. This is lipoprotein. The reason lipoprotein, there's cholesterol and there's triglycerides. Remember, because our liver does that. It has to get it out of the liver and get it circulated around the bodies for all the things that are needed. So it stores that in a little protein shell. Cholesterol and triglycerides are fat. The other name for fat is lipids. So that's why this is called a lipoprotein. Okay? Because you can't throw fat in the bloodstream. Fat and water doesn't mix. So they put them in this. So your liver's taking this it's called a very low density because it's full of fat. So the fat flows. It's very, very low density. Okay? Real hard, high density, those are the ones, that's just mainly cholesterol. It just drops. And we'll talk about that. But anyway, so that's a very low density lipoprotein. This is how it leaves the body, so out of the liver. So the liver puts this VLDL, this very low density lipoprotein, and it starts going around your blood and starts giving this triglycerides and this cholesterol. As it does, this shrinks. So it goes from a very low density, there's actually another one in here, very low density lipoprotein, to an IDL, an intermediate density lipoprotein. Keeps giving away triglycerides and cholesterol, comes to an LDL, a low density lipoprotein. Okay? And then it gives a little bit more, and then the LDL, under normal, regular circuit, the way God made it, perfectly normal, this LDL goes back to the liver, it attaches to the liver takes that up, and it fills it up with cholesterol and triglycerides again, and sends it back out on its rounds. That is health. That's normal. That is the way God made us, and it works great. What's bad is this small dense LDL, and this is what we produce now that we started eating carbohydrates. I'll explain that in detail when I talk about statins and cholesterol if we have time to do that. So anyway, so that's your VLDL, the LDLs. So now these are going, and they're going to go over, and they're going to go up to this fat cell. So this is an empty fat cell. Okay, you have trillions of these fat cells all over your body. So you got this little fat cell, and it's just sitting there hanging out. And this LDL comes by, and the LDL says, "Hey, I got some triglycerides for you. You want them?" So it says, "Yeah, give me some triglycerides." So it brings it in. One thing. First, I'll tell you this. This goes back, and I'll show you on the next slide. But I guess I might as well tell you. So this fat cell, it's sitting there, and it says, "Yeah, I'll take some more." Then another fatmobile comes through, say, "Hey, I got some triglycerides," filled it up. And then all of a sudden, you got this fat cell. Now I'll wait, because it's cool. It's only 2 slides. So now this is the fat cell. Okay? This is the doors that you just saw in that empty fat cell. This is the LDL came through and it has this triglyceride. Remember, this triglyceride is too big, it can't go through this to get on. This is the inside of the fat cell. So you have to cleave these off in order for those free fatty acids to go across, and then it gets put back in triglycerides on the inside. Here's the key. You have an enzyme on the outside of the fat cell called LPL. It's a lipoprotein lipase. The function of this is to cleave these fatty acids off here. You also have an enzyme on the inside, HSL, hormone-sensitive lipase. Its function is the exact same thing. Cleave these off so the 3 fatty acids come through here. The key is insulin. When your insulin levels are high, you stimulate LPL. And you inhibit HSL. It's inhibit. You can't do it with the insulin's high. So when your insulin levels are high, all you can do is cleave these off and stuff it in the fat cells. Okay? When your insulin levels go back low, like when you don't eat for a while, if there's anybody like that, now that stimulates HSL, so this can cut off and go through there, and it inhibits LPL. So that's why I said when your insulin levels are high, it forces your body to store fat. When you let your insulin levels come low, it forces your body to burn the fat for its energy source like God meant for us to do. Does that make sense? Is this crazy? Are you understanding what I'm saying? So again, the whole thing, all I'm saying, keep your insulin levels low. Keep your insulin levels low by keeping glucose out of your mouth. Or decrease the amount. So now you've got this big fat cell. It's stuck. It can't hold anymore. So what happens, the LDL comes around and says, "Hey, I got some triglycerides for you." And it's like, I'm stuck. Take it to the next cell. So it does. And it does, and it does. And it slowly starts filling up all your fat cells all around the body. That's where genetics kind of come in. That is prediabetes. Okay? Because this full fat cell is now called insulin resistant. That's what insulin resistance is. The cell is so full of fat, it can't take any more. There's nothing wrong with insulin, nothing wrong with the pancreas, nothing wrong with the cell. It's just too full. The thing is, this cell, when it's full, it goes to the neighbor, and the neighbor, and the neighbor. And so this is why it takes 20, 30, 40, 50 years of slowly filling up your fat cells before now. And as you start filling more up, it takes more and more and more insulin to keep your glucose down. Okay? Does that make sense? So you've got all this insulin, you're producing more and more and more. So if you would go to the doctor and say, what's my insulin level, what's my glucose level? I'm getting ahead of myself. I'll explain that in just a little bit. But anyway, just realize this is insulin resistance. Okay? That's insulin resistance. So what's going on is, like I said, when you're healthy, you eat glucose levels go up, your body produces insulin, glucose comes back down normal, and your insulin comes down normal. That's healthy. Now what happens when you keep eating carbohydrates over and over and over all through the day, every single day, it slowly takes more and more and more and more insulin to keep this glucose down. Okay? This is prediabetes. It is not an A1C of 5.7 to 6.4. That's a lie. That's a marketing technique to get more people on diabetic medications, and you'll see why. This is prediabetes. So the only way you know if you have prediabetes is to get your fasting insulin, and fasting glucose. And if your fasting insulin is high, you're pre-diabetic. That's all there is. If you go to the doctor, all he's going to check this and say, hey, you're fine. Keep doing what you're doing. You look good. You know, bull. That's not right. Then all of a sudden, you're slowly filling up fat cells, filling, till all of a sudden now you have the majority of fat cells, however much, that depends on genetics, they're all full. So now your insulin, it doesn't matter. There's nowhere else you can put this. So that's when you start to see your glucose go up. Okay? So the doctors say this, and they want to see here you're pre-diabetic. Okay? You know why? Do you know how diabetic medications work? All of them. Two main ways. There's one that does a different way, but you don't use it very much because of adverse effects. They all work by either causing your pancreas to produce more insulin or make your cells more sensitive to insulin. That's why they don't want you checking insulin levels, because their diabetic medication is making you more insulin resistant. All it's doing is taking this stuffed fat cell and saying, you know, I bet we could stuff some more little stuffed animals in that house. That's what it's doing. It's stuffing more in there than you actually need. So you're just kicking the ball down the line. Just real quick to prove it. In the 1990s, there were two classes of diabetic medications. They encompass 7 diabetic medications. Okay, that's all. In 1980 and 1990, there was not another diabetic drug that was produced because they said there weren't enough type 2 diabetics, and they also found all the studies that just because you lower glucose didn't do anything as far as the health because you're raising the insulin. After 1999, in the year 2000, from the year 2000 to 25, we now have 25 new diabetic drugs, an average of 1 new diabetic drug every year. And the way they do this is the A1C, a good A1C used to be above 8 or below 8. You want to keep your A1C below 8. No. Then they said, hey, let's say it needs to be below 7. Hey, why don't we say it's supposed to be below 6.4? So that's what they did. And as they decrease that, they can start putting more people on diabetic medications. Then, now, a group of 10 people got together in this room, and they said, how can we get more people on diabetic medications? Let's tell them there's such thing as prediabetes. And we'll say that that's going to be 5.7 to 6.4. So now they put even more on it. And that is what's going on. Type 2 diabetic medications make you more of a type 2 diabetic. And you think they don't know that. So this is the end of the diabetic portion. So just remember, the more you eat on this side, the closer you're going to be. If you have cancer, if you have high blood pressure, if you have type 2 diabetes, I'd eat almost everything from animal-based foods. Again, if you want to have, lettuce, tomato, pickles, anything grows above the ground, that's fine. But you might want to stay away from the ones that grow below the ground and avoid this. That's toxic sludge. Okay. So any questions before I? Is this late? Should I not go into statins and cholesterol?
No, please do. Please do.
It's good with us.
Yeah.
As long as everybody else is good with it.
Are you guys cool? And it's not going to be as long as diabetic. A lot of people have diabetes, and a lot of people are pre-diabetic, and they don't even realize it. So I want to make sure. Does everybody understand what I said? Did I talk over your head? Do you get it?
Some of it.
Do you have any questions? Anything? And you guys know who these people are, Secrets of Healthcare and everything. Ask them, and they'll get a hold of me. But I want to make sure you're very, very clear. You especially. If there's anything that I said that's like, yeah, right, I don't believe that or whatever, let me know. I mean,
My question revolves around, I just want to make sure I understand. The cell is calling for insulin, right? It's saying, I want glucose. But the insulin
No.
can't get, is that how it works or no?
Cells not calling for insulin.
They're not?
The insulin is just as soon as glucose comes into your blood, that's what calls for insulin.
Oh, okay.
So insulin comes out, and then that's what it does with it. It either takes it, uses it for immediate energy, restores your glucose stores, glycogen, or it turns it all into triglycerides.
Okay.
That's the only two
Okay.
things that insulin does.
Got it.
Okay?
Got it.
And so, yeah, it does, and that's how it works on the cell. Is the insulin, the high insulin tells your body to store the fat, and the low insulin tells it to come out because of the way it stimulates HSL and LPL.
Do high
That-
insulin levels then damage your arteries
Yes.
and such?
Yes.
Okay,
Yes.
so it does. Okay.
Yes, high insulin levels are horrible on your blood vessels, on everything. Glucose is horrible. It's called glycation. Glucose attaches to all the proteins in your body called glycation and tears them up. That's what an A1C is. When you get an A1C, that's a red blood cell with all the glucose that's attached to it. So you're actually measuring damaged red blood cells. That's what an A1C is.
Oh.
And that's why it says for the last 3 months, because that's about the lifespan of a red blood cell.
So I had, when you were talking about insulin dependence, I had a doctor that had me on 23 units of insulin every day, twice a day,
Yeah,
and never monitored it.
yeah,
And then all of a sudden, all my more organs started shutting down.
yeah, yeah.
That's what.
It does.
Yeah.
It makes it worse.
Yep.
Yeah.
We have several people here.
So
Maybe
how
multiple years.
injurious is the cephalic phase when you put like a mint in your mouth to your insulin level?
It'll raise it up. When you talk about cephalic phase, like I said, just the fact that you see something or you get a sweet taste in your mouth, your body automatically starts producing insulin. That's called the cephalic phase. Yeah, I mean, if you're talking about, I mean, think about how much glucose, you know. I mean, it's not going to raise it that much compared to all this man-made
Does it
food.
shut down
But
your-
yeah, what's that?
Does it shut down your autophagy?
Autophagy.
Does it shut down autophagy?
No, low. Well, high insulin does. High insulin will shut down autophagy. Autophagy just means your cells. They have all these debris. They have proteins and everything that are in them that you use it. So cells, our cells are alive. They're not just sitting there. They're all alive. They're doing stuff, and so they make a bunch of metabolic byproducts. And a lot of these proteins, they get clogged in there. When your insulin levels are high, you can't do anything with it. It just stays there and clogs up your cells. When your insulin levels come low, now you can start burning up. You can get all that secretion of these deteriorated proteins out of that cell to give more room for it to start producing more cells, do all the stuff it needs. So yeah, high insulin shuts off
But if
autophagy.
you're just like chewing a mint, or if you're
Not a mint. I mean, that's
Vinaca or breath spray.
that's not your worry. If you have type 2 diabetics, it's not because you use too much Binaca.
If you're trying to go into autophagy though.
You'll get it. If you go into autophagy just sitting here and staying away from carbs, all you're doing is trying to keep your insulin levels low. So keep glucose in your mouth is what's causing it.
Right.
And yeah, there's going to be a little bit of glucose in that's not the issue. That's not a big deal.
Just a question. I don't know if you know, but like I'm wondering when you're doing 1 meal a day, so or approximately, right? So when you stop eating during that eating window, what happens to your insulin levels over that next 18
Exactly.
hours or whatever?
Exactly.
Where does it go
Exactly.
down to a minimum level or
Yes.
something? Okay,
Yes.
okay.
That's the purpose of it. That's why if you hear about anybody eating 1 meal a day or 2 meals a day or even intermittent fasting or time restricted eating, same thing. You eat all your meals in a strict short window. It could be whatever. I mean, some people eat every other day. That's not recommended, and it's been shown you don't need to do that. But like, if you eat all your meals in a 6 to 8 hour time period, all the rest of the time you're not eating, you're keeping your insulin levels low, like God wanted us to. And so you start eating fat out of your fat cells. So that's the whole purpose. Your insulin levels will come back down during those times that you're not eating. That's why you do that. That is the one purpose why you do that.
Very good.
Well, yeah, time restricted eating. Okay.
Steve.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Okay. Now, earlier you were saying, get your sugar low, keep your sugar low. Okay, I've been fighting like heck to
By not
get it
eating.
low.
By not eating.
And well, what I've done over the last month, and it is yesterday was the 1 month. Okay, no breads, no pastas, no ice cream. Even though I like it, but
Any plant.
I can't get away from the 200s.
Are you eating
200.
potatoes? Sweet
No.
potatoes. You're not
I'm
eating
eating
anything
sweet
from. You're not.
I'm eating sweet potatoes.
There you go. How much of that? That's all glucose.
Well,
You're putting glucose into your blood. And a lot, because sweet
Yeah,
potatoes
sweet
have
potatoes,
glucose, that's
yeah.
starch, that's just
They're not
long
good.
chain of
Right.
glucose.
I thought I was supposed to eat them instead of the regular.
It's glucose. It's glucose. Plants below the ground are loaded with glucose. Period. So if your blood glucose is high, it's because you're eating it, or you're stressed constantly. That's the only two ways. Your body doesn't just put glucose in your blood for no reason. You're eating it. I guarantee you're eating it, and I bet you're eating it from. If you want to lose, ask these two guys. He went on purely carnivore. How long ago?
2 months, about
2 months, and you're down how long?
28 pounds.
Yeah, 28 pounds, 2 months.
yeah.
I guarantee his insulin levels are doing good, and he's using his fat for his energy source. And he went carnivore. He went and mainly animal-based eating.
It's grass-fed,
And I'm not
grass-fed
telling
beef,
everybody to go
grass-fed beef, pasture-raised chicken, and some pork.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's what you eat. I guarantee. Sure.
Well,
Write
they'll
down.
tell
For
you
1
the-
week, just write down
What?
every single thing you put in your mouth. And at the end of it, say, did this come from,
Yeah.
did this come from an animal? Did this come from an animal? Because I get questions like that. Well, is nuts plant-based? Is grains plant-based? Don't ask did it come from a plant. Ask if it came from an animal. Because if it didn't come from an animal, it came from a plant. And nobody asks, do nuts come from an animal? Like Walter Matt Boyce or something.
Buc-ee's do.
Does cinnamon support beta cells in your pancreas?
Hey, anybody from Santa Processing? I honestly, I don't. I deal with the macronutrients. All this other stuff, yes, cinnamon's supposed to be good. I don't get into that. But and the reason why I don't think any of this stuff is bad, but I want to be healthy. I'm 63 years old. I want to be healthy. I've got grandkids coming. I'm excited about this. I want to die young, just as late as possible. So that's my whole goal.
If you're having trouble keeping your blood sugar down,
So you're eating it. Stop eating it. Period.
maybe you're not eating it, would it be a
You are
function-
eating
Would it be a function of your pancreas not secreting
No.
enough insulin?
No, very rarely. That'd be so rare. Yeah, it doesn't happen. It's strictly because you're eating it.
Okay.
And just.
And stress. So stress is huge. If you're stressed all the time, you're going to be putting glucose and insulin in your body. Yeah.
I thought the primary job of insulin was to take glucose inside the cell so that the energy process can start. And I also thought that the problem with seed oils was they damage the cell wall so that the insulin can't get the glucose inside the cell where you can use it.
Yes, seed oils do that. But I've already showed you what insulin does at the cell. That's what it does.
Well, it takes the glucose inside the cell where
Well, it takes the glucose
it
in as a
needs to- the whole
triglyceride.
ATP Krebs cycle starts, but it won't do it if there's no insulin to take the glucose.
That's
inside
right.
the cell.
It'll use fat like it's supposed to. We're not supposed to be using glucose for we can, but we're not supposed to. And that's why when you need glucose for energy source, that means you're eating glucose all the time, which means your insulin level's high, your glucose levels are high, and if you get it from the man-made foods, so are your chemicals, all your seed oils and all that kind of stuff, so your inflammation is high also. That's why. So yes, your body can run on glucose. Look around. Most people, their bodies are running on glucose. And that's why they're getting fatter and fatter and fatter. Because they're using glucose for an energy source and they just keep storing fast. You will never, ever use the amount of glucose that you eat. Like I said, if you lift weights, heavy weights, for an hour, 400, 800 calories. That's it. And most people do not lift a lot of heavy weights for an hour. And if you're really lifting heavy weights, you can't do it for an hour. Because you're just not lifting heavy enough.
So how does fat get inside the cell?
How does what?
Fat get inside the cell
Right here.
if you don't need insulin?
Right there. This is how fat gets in. This is fat. Fat is triglycerides.
Through the cell wall.
Gets through the cell wall, gets inside the fat cell, and it's stored.
She's talking about things like muscle and heart.
I'm not talking about fat cells.
Well, that's where it's all going. If you're using glucose for your energy source, yes. Actually, when you use, because like your muscle cells, they also have LPL and HSL. However, it works opposite on those. So when your glucose is high, it actually makes you push glucose into, because insulin's a storage molecule. So when your insulin levels are high, you push glucose into your muscles to use for energy, plus your muscles have their own energy, and then it pushes fat in your fat cells. When your insulin levels are low, you pull the fat out of your fat cells and you push that into your muscle cells. which is what you want to do. You want to use your fat for your energy source. So now when I'm going to exercising, I'm not having to eat glucose. I'm burning the fat out of my fat cells and using that for my energy, like God made us to do. So you pull the fat out and you push it into the muscles. When you're using glucose for your energy source, you're pushing that in. You're keeping your insulin levels high. So you're pushing some glucose into the muscles, but you are not exercising that much, I guarantee it. But you're also turning the rest of your triglycerides to stored as fat. So you're doing both. Does that make sense? So high insulin levels, you put glucose into the muscles, you push fat in the fat cells.
Well, I'm not advocating for high insulin levels. I'm just saying insulin has a really important job, I believe.
It's ungodly or
and
godly.
so I'm not disagreeing with you on that. I'm just saying it's just basics, that it's not, nothing's getting inside if you don't have some insulin to do it.
Wrong. Fat's getting inside. And fat's what you want. Fat is what our body uses. That is the energy source that God made us use. That's why we have fat stores all over our body and we only have little glucose stores. Fat is supposed to be our energy source. Food companies have told everybody that glucose is supposed to be their energy source. They say, glucose is your brain's main energy source. That's lies. These are lies. Your brain works great on fat. It works great on fat. And all these high insulin levels and high glucose is why we're seeing Alzheimer's, dementia, all these other things are coming around from us eating glucose and having high insulin levels constantly.
Right, and it's
So-
not the HDL and LDL, it's the triglycerides.
Yeah.
Which he's pointing out.
Right.
Yeah.
And the triglycerides, when your triglycerides.
But you're not talking about fiber at all. in
No.
the diet.
Fiber's important if you eat a lot of plants. You need fiber so it doesn't get, and that's the main reason you eat fiber, so it doesn't get absorbed in glucose into your body
Unless you're
system.
eating the meat raw, how are you digesting it?
How do you?
Are you what?
The raw meat, because if it's cooked, then you don't have the enzymes to break the meat down.
That all depends on meat and also how all meats are different. Some of them you want to flash them, some of them you want to have a slow cook, but definitely the more rare you have it, the more you're going to have the enzymes and the higher omega-3 content you're going to have in your meat also. When you burn it, when you get something that's well done or medium well, you're getting rid of all the nutrients and you're getting rid of other things that your body needs, like the omega-3s. So that's why medium rare, you go to other countries, they won't even get a medium well or well done. That's like, we don't do that here. All we do is medium rare, or rare. That's all they do, or blue. Call it blue.
Get the moo off of it.
Does that make sense though? So yes, most people are using glucose for their energy.
This is good information.
But most people do use glucose for their energy source. Every single cell in your body can use glucose. It can't use fructose, which also gets stored immediately in triglycerides. But it can use glucose. But the problem with using glucose for energy source is now you're constantly eating glucose, which your body doesn't want, and you're constantly having high insulin levels, which your body doesn't want. When you eat fat, you don't have high insulin levels and you don't have glucose, and you've got the fat that's going that your body, every single cell in your body uses it. So that's why you're just determining which one you want. If you want glucose, be prepared to be on tons of medications, period. If you want fat, be prepared to be healthy. It's really that simple. It really seriously is.
So in summary, there's two energy cycles, right? You got your fight and flight, which is glucose. Your fat is for maintenance and living, right? And then if you use your fight and flight glucose, your body will naturally build the glucose to put into your stores.
Mainly because your body doesn't want glucose. It doesn't want a high blood glucose. It knows it damages protein.
Yeah.
So it does everything it can to get that glucose down. That's why you have this cephalic phase. You don't have this cephalic phase with fat and protein. But as soon as you see, smell, taste sweet, your body starts producing insulin because it wants to try to get that glucose down as quick as possible.
Sure.
And those are 3 ways it does it. Immediate energy, stored energy, or turns it into triglycerides. It's the only way. It's the only thing that does it. Does that make sense?
Good stuff.
You're
Good
still not
stuff.
convinced. We can talk one-on-one because I love
I'm
it.
not totally, but this is
Are
not
you a
my
nurse by any
presentation.
chance?
I am a nurse, but
You
I'm
train-
also.
Okay, that's how we are trained.
That's how I was trained.
Yeah.
That's what I said.
Yeah.
I-
But she's not just a nurse, she's also does other things.
Yeah.
That's not the
Yeah,
point. The point
yeah.
is, as nurses, we are trained
Yes.
that insulin opens the cell,
Yeah.
and nothing else
Yeah.
will open that
Yeah,
cell.
I just thought the same crap.
Yeah.
It's ridiculous. It's ridiculous.
Yeah.
And you're trained that from the drug companies.
Yeah.
That's who does. If you go to a conference anywhere, who's paying for everything? Who has all these banquets and everything you go to? go to your doctor's office, who's bringing all these meds in? Who's sending all this primary literature? Look at my drug here that their drug company did. You want to read a book that'll open your eyes? There's a book called Sickening. It goes into, because this guy was a defense attorney. They're the only ones who are allowed to see the studies that drug companies do. Drug companies don't have to show all their calculations, all their stuff. They don't have to show that to anybody. They write it up in a paper, and the paper is what gets out in peer review. They pay for the peer review, they pay for the journals, and they pay for this. This book Sickening shows what they do inside here. They've done stuff. If they have, and it's all spelled out. You know exactly that he knows exactly what he's talking about. If they have people who died during their studies, they can just throw them out and say, "No, that patient was never in this study." You don't think they do it? You haven't been in the medical field.
Wow.
They lie about stuff all the
They
time
don't
because it
even
was
have to do
business.
studies if you, after COVID, so.
What's that?
They don't even have to do studies.
Right.
COVID, they can just say whatever they want. But
Yes,
it's okay.
yes.
I don't.
We are the guinea pigs. All these drugs that are coming out, we're the guinea pigs. They don't know what the hell it is. That's why you have all these. You should see there's like 60 for GLP-1 agonists, Ozempic and all those. There was like 60 different harmful effects from that before it ever came to the market. And then there's post-marketing adverse effects after that. They knew what this stuff was doing. They knew people are losing their stomachs, their intestines, their colons. They're getting cancer. Going
blind.
These GLP-1s are killing everybody.
Going blind.
It's sickening, and they're still pushing it. They're pushing it on everybody. It's
Everybody gets
ridiculous.
it now.
Yeah.
Now, and that's wait till you see what it's up to you guys, seriously. You want to see what statins do?
Yes.
I
Yes.
would love to see your statins, Steve.
If you have to leave, I'm going to record it, and you can get the recording.
See, this isn't my fault. This is Billy's fault. You talk so much. Okay, first thing. What causes heart attacks? It is not LDLs. Remember that show, the Fatmobiles? You had the VLDL, IDL, LDL.
Yes.
That's perfectly normal. Then you had the small, dense LDL. That's abnormal. So there's good LDLs and there's bad LDLs. And I want to, and you'll know, this isn't anywhere near as long as the diabetic one. So you've got the good ones are called large buoyant LDLs. They just float through the bloodstream and they do what they do. They're passing out their triglycerides and cholesterol, going back to the liver, building back up. These small dense LDLs are what's killing us. And I'm going to make sure you know exactly what's going on here. So, back to our VLDLs. Here's what's going on. Remember he said VLDL turns into VLDL in the liver, and then goes to IDL and LDL in the blood, just because it keeps shrinking. So as it shrinks, as the way it's triglycerides, it starts getting more and more dense. What happens when you eat glucose constantly, like what people do, you are producing a ton of triglycerides. So what ends up happening is this VLDL ends up having take these cholesterol off and fill more triglycerides. So it has less cholesterol and more triglycerides, trying to get it out. Because your liver doesn't want all those triglycerides in it either. That's how we get the fatty liver disease. So you take this out, so now you have more triglycerides. Why that matters is because as these floats around the bloodstream and goes to an IDL and an LDL, it starts giving away the triglycerides, and when it shrinks down even smaller than it was, because now there wasn't as much cholesterol in it. When this shrinks down small, remember the LDL goes back to the liver and it attaches to a receptor, and the liver takes that up and it fills it back up with cholesterol and triglycerides, turn it back into a VLDL again. When this goes to the liver, it doesn't fit the receptor anymore. It doesn't fit it. So the small dense LDL stays out in the bloodstream and it keeps circulating around when it shouldn't have been there. As this thing is sitting there and it's circulating around, it's coming in contact with things. You are eating glucose. That's why you got it in the first place. Glucose, like I just said, glucose attaches to proteins and it deteriorates them. It tears them up. So that's what happens. You have glucose, so glucose attached, because it's a lipoprotein. It's a protein. So glucose attaches, so it's glycated. Then the other thing that happens is you have, chances are when you have this, all the chemicals we're exposed to all the time, especially if you eat them, like with lab-made food, you're eating chemicals all the time. If you're looking at an ingredient list, there's more than like 3-4 ingredients on it, you're eating chemicals. So, everybody's like, how are you going to, if you got an ingredient level, chances are you shouldn't be having that in your body. So now you have inflammation. So this has become glycated with the glucose and it's become inflamed. The other thing, when you use fat for your energy source, going back to what you were saying, when you use fat for your energy source, the byproduct, you get ATP, which is your energy, and the byproduct is carbon dioxide that you can breathe out, and it's water. When you use glucose for an energy source, it produces ATP and carbon dioxide and water, and then these little free radicals. This is called a reactive oxygen species. And that's why people eat glucose all the time. They tell you need to have an antioxidant. It's because when you use glucose, you produce all these free radicals. So now, this little small dense LDL has become glycated, it's become inflamed, and now it's also been oxidized, okay? You don't want these free radicals floating around in your body. That's why you take the antioxidants like vitamin C. So now you have this thing floating around, and it is a time bomb. It's way better. And one other thing that also happens, inside your blood vessels, if you take the inner lining out of the blood vessels, there's kind of like a little velvety lining. It's called the glycocalyx. And the glycocalyx has these little hair-like, and they keeps things in the lumen of the blood vessel so it doesn't get out. When you eat carbohydrates, a high carbohydrate meal, those little fibers, they shrink down, so you're not protecting your blood vessels as well. So you eat a carbohydrate, your glycocalyx shrivels, and it only shrivels for about 6 hours, and then it'll come back. But what do most people do who eat glucose? They've already eaten again within 6 hours because they're never full. So you tear up the glycocalyx. Now the small dense LDL, it can go through and it embeds in the lining of the blood vessel. Okay, when it embeds in the lining of the blood vessel, the body says, "Whoa, I've got a foreign particle in my blood vessel." So it sends out the inflammatory response. It sends out little enzymes to start eating that up. Well, when you're having all these small dense LDLs in your blood vessels, it's sending out all these enzymes. You start tearing up the blood vessels, and you get what's called foam cells. They start sticking out in the lumen. So it kind of looks like this. This is a normal blood vessel. It's all smooth, everything's good. This is what happens when you have these small dense LDLs. They get embedded in here. So now what's happened is this is poking out into the lumen. So now that you have decreased flow, decreased blood flow to your end organs, and that's the whole thing. You're taking this blood and nutrients and oxygen and all these things to your end organs. So you've decreased your flow. Plus, besides just decrease the flow, when this water gets on the other side, you know how it swirls? If you've been floating, you know the water swirls on the other side, gets stagnant. That's where blood clots come from. When you have flowing, stagnant blood, it produces blood clots. So now you have decreased flow and you have blood clots going. Well, I don't know if you know the bloodstream, but once you have the arteries going to your capillaries, and then from the capillaries, it gets bigger and bigger. It goes from venules to veins all the way up. So it comes in the heart, pumped from the right side. The first capillary flow that comes to is the lungs. Because the right side of your heart pumps blood to the lungs, get oxygen, goes down the left side of the heart, and then the left side pumps to the rest. If you can make it through there without getting a PE, a pulmonary embolism, you know, which a lot of people have now too, these little clots in their blood vessels. If you get past that, when the left side pumps, the first place it goes to is the brain, because the brain wants all the things. So that's why you get TIAs, you get strokes, you get all this stuff. The heart, the first one that comes out, you have a blood vessel comes out and it goes right back and feeds the heart. So that's why the heart and the brain and the lung are the main things that you see right after that, because that's where the main arteries are as soon as all these clots came up and went into your heart. And it's all because we're causing this. We're tearing our blood vessels to pieces. It is not cholesterol that's doing that. That is a lie. And I'll explain that to you. Hello. Okay, one thing, cholesterol. Every single cell, except red blood cells, because red blood cells don't have a nucleus, every single cell in your body makes cholesterol. It has to have cholesterol for it to survive. That's what it does. It's so important that every single cell has two ways to get cholesterol. It can make it on its own, or it can increase its LDL receptors around it, so you can pull the cholesterol in from the LDLs that are going around, these little fat mobiles that are coming in. Okay? Extremely important when you see what they do with statins. Our liver makes 80% of all the cholesterol we make. Our brain uses 20% of all the cholesterol that the entire body makes. It is never. Oh yeah, that's the other thing. Eating cholesterol. They say eating cholesterol is what's going to get. The cholesterol that you eat is called esterified. It has these little side chains on it. The cholesterol in your blood is not the same cholesterol. That's non-esterified. That's not how you get cholesterol. You get cholesterol because your liver's making it and your cells are making it because it is vital to life. That's why you're doing it. This high cholesterol crap it's all money. And I'm going to show you exactly how statins work. Okay, remember I said every single cell makes it on its own, or it gets it from the LDLs going by. They have these little receptors. So, why do we need cholesterol? Because it's vital for everything. Our low cholesterol, Testosterone, estrogen, progesterone, those are all called steroid hormones because they're made out of cholesterol, okay? So cholesterol makes these. You have low cholesterol, you have low testosterone. Plus, just a side note, fat cells, they have this enzyme called aromatase. Aromatase turns testosterone into estrogen. So the more fat cells you have more aromatase, and you turn testosterone into estrogen. So you have lower testosterone and higher estrogen just because you have more fat cells on your body than you need. That's a side note. Cell membranes. Every single cell, and we have trillions of cells. Every single cell in your body, the cell membrane is made out of fat and cholesterol. We are making new cells constantly. Skin cells, GI cells, our organs are regenerating. I mean, we're always making cells. We need fat and cholesterol. Vitamin D. Cholesterol that's the precursor of vitamin D. You don't have cholesterol, you're not going to have any vitamin D. And now you put sunscreen on so you don't get any vitamin D. No wonder everybody's vitamin D deficient. They're telling you, block out the sun and take my statin. It's ridiculous. Bile acids. The bile acids they're stored in your gallbladder. Okay? So when you eat fat, it sends a signal to your gallbladder to squeeze these enzymes out, and goes through your common bile duct into your intestines, and that dissolves all your food. Okay? You don't eat fat, you don't squeeze the bile acids out of your bile acids are made out of cholesterol. But when you do that, when you don't eat fat, you don't squeeze that out, and so you don't get your enzyme. One, you're not breaking down your food the way you should, and the other, you get biliary sludging. How many people you know that's had their gallbladders taken out, or they're going to have all kinds of gallbladder issues? It's because they're not eating fat. You think a doctor's going to tell you that? Oh God, no. One, they don't know it. But I mean, we've been told forever that eating fat's what makes you fat, and eating fat's bad, and it's a lie. And then also, they've also found that LDLs also help with infections and everything. It can help get rid of infections. Okay, so this is it. Where I got all this information, this was a 400-page book that I just read a couple years ago. Opened my eyes. It's called How Statin Drugs Really Lower Cholesterol and Kill You One Cell at a Time. It was written by James Joseph and his wife Hannah. It was not finished by James Joseph because he died of statin toxicity while writing this book. And so his wife ended up taking over after that. So this is how statins work. And really, I'm almost done.
Yeah.
Remember, every single cell in your body that needs cholesterol, so it makes it. Okay? The way it does it is when your body needs cholesterol and these other isoprenoids, and I'll explain exactly what I mean by that. Because it's not just cholesterol that's made through this process. It's made with a lot of things the cell needs to live. When your body needs more cholesterol and these isoprenoids, these other things that it needs to be able to grow, survive, multiply, so it can be growing, it needs this. So next reductase, the hydroxybutyr and the HMG-CoA. Okay, these come from your food. When you eat it, you make this. This goes in and it attaches to this reductase. This is the protein that your cells are making. Okay, so your cell says, I need cholesterol, I need these isoprenoids, so I'm going to make some reductase. So it makes reductase. You have this little chemical reaction. Once these bind together, it makes a reaction, and from here, you make this substance called mevalonate. Key. Okay, this is just another substrate of the reaction. It comes back, gets recycled in to be able to use it again. Mevalonate is everything. So you have reductase, make a chemical reaction, you make mevalonate. Once you make mevalonate, so this is the food you eat. It comes up here, gets HMG-CoA, and it makes mevalonate. Once it makes mevalonate, it makes all these, they're called isoprenoids, all these other things that the cell needs to live, to be able to multiply, to be able to live, to be able to take care of itself. It takes all that. Statins block this right here. So they're saying, yes, cholesterol is one of the isoprenoids. But not only that, but so are all these, like coenzyme Q10, vitamin K, the dolichol. All these things are made by that. So that's why they tell people on statins, you need to take your coenzyme, your CoQ10. If anybody's heard that, it's a common thing they're having everybody do. Yep. And that's why. Okay? So here's what's going on. Oh, first. No, you can't see that. Okay, statins. Why are they called statins? They're called statins because all the generic drugs end in the word statin. So if you're on Lipitor, that's atorvastatin, Zocor, simvastatin, Pravachol, pravastatin. Get it? That's why they're called statins, because that's what this is. Okay? But what a statin really is, it's a 3-hydroxy, 3-methyl coenzyme A reductase inhibitor. Okay? That's what this is. Or 3-hydroxy 3-methyl glutarate coenzyme A. And that's where you were supposed to say, what the heck are you saying? I don't understand. But to break it down, and that's really all I'm saying, is this was the HMG CoA, and that's reductase. And now statin clings onto it right here. So now it gums this whole machinery up. So now it doesn't work. Now it's not making mevalonate. So now you've got this cell sitting here, and it's saying, okay, I need my isoprenoids. And so it's sitting here, and so it starts producing reductase. Well, they're on a statin, so the reductase comes along, but no cholesterol, none of the other isoprenoids. So the cell says, whoa, my machinery must be messed up. I need more reductase. So it starts producing more reductase. And this has been shown. People on statins have a very high intracellular reductase levels. The other thing it does is it says, well, and I also need my cholesterol. So it puts more LDL receptors around the outside of it. Okay, so as this LDL, this fat mobile goes through, it gives the cholesterol to the cell. So now the cell's sitting there thinking, well, I've got my cholesterol now, but I don't have vitamin K, I don't have coenzyme Q, I don't have my glycol, I don't have any of this other stuff I need. So what happens? Cell dies. It's dead. You just killed your cell because you're on a statin. And why are you on a statin? To lower your LDL levels. You don't need to lower LDL levels. That's not what's causing blood vessel damage. And I'll show you. Because if you look at all the studies show that whether your LDL levels are high or whether it's low has no effect on cardiovascular effects. What does is if your triglycerides are high, and HDL, your good cholesterol, is low. Okay? That's how it happens. So the way to take care of this is not lower your LDLs with a statin to kill your body. And if anybody knows anything about statins, there are so many horrible adverse effects of that because it's killing every cell in your body. So what happens is what you want is to decrease your triglycerides and raise your HDLs. That's how you protect it. You do not do it by being on a statin. There is not a single positive thing about a statin. No matter what these drug companies are telling them, what they're putting out in their little studies, it's bull. There's nothing good about it. This isn't one that even has to be weaned off. It can be stopped. I'm not telling you to stop your, but I did tell every one of my loved ones to. Triglycerides. So, what you really need to look for when you get a cholesterol panel, don't even look at the LDL. The LDL is the only thing your doctor's looking at. I guarantee you, they're looking at the LDL. That's all they care about. Don't do that. Look at your triglyceride level, your HDL level, which is your good cholesterol, and your total cholesterol. What they found is if you take your triglyceride, and this is done through studies, what they found, and not by drug companies, is if your triglycerides are more than twice your HDLs, that's indicative that you have a lot of those small, dense LDLs. Okay? So you want your triglycerides divided by your HDL to be 2 or less. You'd really like to have it more 1-to-1. When we got ours, our HDLs are higher than our triglycerides are. Okay? So that you want to do that, or you can take your total cholesterol divided by your HDL, and that should be 5 or less, and preferably less than 3.5. Again, if it's higher than this, it's indicative that you're on your way to cardiovascular disease. Okay, because of the triglyceride, because of the amount of glucose that you eat all the time. So this is what you really care about: triglycerides and HDLs. Did I ever talk about HDLs? Where these come out? I think I'll talk about that next. There's only a couple more slides, I promise. So the big question is, how do you lower your triglycerides? I just spent a lot of time telling you that. You quit eating glucose. I mean, it really is that easy. How do you increase your HDLs? Your HDLs, your VLDL is made in the liver, and then your IDL and LDLs are formed as it's circulating around. But your HDLs are made in the intestines. Okay, that's where they go. The only things that ever been shown to raise your HDLs is lifting heavy things, resistance training, and eating fat and cholesterol. Because that fat and cholesterol, remember, it's different. That's not the cholesterol that's in your bloodstream. This is esterified fats. It's not the non-esterified fats that's in your blood that all your cells are making. So that fat that goes in there, that mixture, and it's called an HDL because it's a high density lipoprotein. because there's no triglycerides hardly at all. It's mainly all cholesterol. That's why as it gets and circulates around the blood, it can start taking all these LDL, all the cholesterol and everything from around the place. HDLs actually also move triglycerides and HDLs between VLDL, IDL, and LDL. So HDL, it's like a little maintenance man. It goes around and takes care. If there's some on the blood vessels that's not supposed to be there, it'll get it and it'll take it back from VLDL and LDL. So that's why HDLs are supposed. That's why they're good, because they manage all your cholesterol throughout your body. So these are it. So medication misdirection, diabetes. The drug companies, they want you to look at the blood glucose. It is not about blood glucose. You've got to know your insulin levels. Okay, you can do it on your own. If your doctor says, "Well, I don't know what insulin is," you can find that out on your own. The other thing, GLP-1 agonists, they have you look at your A1C, which is just your glucose level. That's all it is. And they have you look at weight loss. A1C, it's not about glucose. It's about insulin. It's not about weight loss, because you're going to eat your muscles up when you're not eating protein. It's going to eat your muscles up for the protein for your organs. You want fat loss. You want fat loss and not muscle loss. You want to preserve your muscles. And the way you do that, keep glucose out of your mouth and eat protein and fat. That's what you need, which is animal-based foods. And then statins, as you just saw. They have you look at your LDL levels. Bogus. Okay, good LDLs, bad LDLs. You should be looking at triglycerides and HDLs. That's how you're going to know. Okay? And I think... Okay, so again, it's not about calories. This isn't a calorie in, calorie out. That's more drug company and food company tell you all that, because glucose is only used for calories. It's all it's used for. So that's why they want to, just decrease your calories. It's not about calories, calorie source. You want fat for your energy. You do not want glucose for your energy. And it's not about exercise. You're never going to get to your fat cells. By the time you get all the glucose out of your blood and all the glucose out of your stores, your exercise is done. And then you can go eat and replenish all that glucose again. You're never going to get to your fat cells. You do not need to exercise. As we've seen, as Paul has seen, when you start eating right, when you start eating healthy, and you start burning the fat out of your fat cells, they're got to the point, and they come really quickly, within a couple of months, that you just, all this energy is like, oh man, I feel like doing something. And that's when you can start exercising. Because exercise is very important. I firmly believe in working out, but not to lose weight. I'm not doing it to lose fat. I'm doing it because there's so many other good health benefits of working out. So anyway, so the keys: stop eating man-made food, lab-made food, stop eating sugar, flour, stop eating seed oils, prioritize your protein, and do not fear fat and cholesterol. We're being duped. Okay?
Steve?
Yeah.
When you taking in a lot of glucose and sugar, your body metabolism tends to go up because it's trying to burn all that off and stuff, right? I mean, in general, is that true?
Your metabolism, that's another thing. Your body can adjust its metabolism up and down by about 30%. So that's the amount of energy that you're doing.
Yeah.
If you want to know, here's this my answer where you're going. Your body, every single person in here has a body weight set point, and it's individual for every one of us. It's what our body feels comfortable with the type of activity you do and the type of nutrition that we have. So if this is your body weight set point, if you're say you're an actor, okay, and you want to get fat for a movie, if you start gaining weight, your body wants you back down here. So as you gain weight, there's two ways that your body can get that weight back down. It's going to slow down it's going to speed up your metabolism, so you start burning more energy, and that'll help you get down. And it's going to make you where you're not very hungry, because it wants you to get your weight back down. So that's why you may see an actor who's in a movie, and then a year later, they've lost all this weight and they're back down. It's because while they were here, they were eating when they weren't hungry, so they had to eat a lot of carbohydrates first, because that bypasses your satiety centers. So that's what they're doing. So now their metabolism is speeded up already, and they're not hungry. So once they stop the movie, all of a sudden with that faster metabolism, not hunger, their weight comes back down easier than most people's do. With us, the opposite is true. If you start doing this, and your body weight, you start losing weight, your body's like, no, you need to be up here. So it does the exact opposite. It makes you more hungry. It's trying to get your weight back up. And it slows down your metabolism. It doesn't want to burn all this energy because it wants to get your weight back up. So what do they tell you? If you want to lose weight, they tell you decrease calories and exercise more. So you're sitting there trying to lose weight, and your body is making you ravenously hungry, and they're telling you decrease your calories. Eat the same crap, just eat less of it. That's what they tell you. That's what your doctors will tell you, because they don't understand this. So now you're losing weight, your body's making you ravenously hungry while they're telling you not to eat, decrease your calories, and it's making you extremely tired, and they're telling you go ahead and exercise. You need to exercise to get that fat off. It's a lie. That's why, as far as the hunger, eat protein and fat. You will be amazed at how long that keeps you. Carbohydrates stay in the stomach for about 30 minutes, 30 to 60 minutes. Then it gets in the intestines in about another 30 to 60 minutes. It gets shut it over, turn into glucose, then turn to triglycerides. Okay? Protein and fat, when that's in there, it'll stay in your stomach for about 2 to 4 hours, depending on how much you had. And then when it gets in the intestine, it can stay in your intestines for about 24 hours. And as it does, it stimulates these receptors all along the intestines, cholecystokinin, peptide YY. And when it stimulates that, it's stimulated by amino acids and fatty acids. When it stimulates that, that goes to your brain and says, I'm not hungry anymore. So that's why it's easy. If somebody eats glucose all the time and I tell them that I only eat once a day, they're like, whoa, how can you do that? Don't you get dizzy and tired? And it's like, no, because I'm giving my body the nutrients that it needs. So that's what happens. They're telling you exercise, telling you decrease calories, your body's saying the exact opposite. So eat the stuff that keeps you satisfied, and as you start losing your weight, now you can start exercising. Now when you're ready to start doing it. The other thing, if you're losing weight, a lot of people, as they start to lose weight, they'll be losing, and then just plateaus. A lot of people get irritated with that. It's like, I'm doing the same thing, and now my weight's not going down. I'll just go back to eating the way I used to. No. You should look, when that comes down and it plateaus, what's happening is your body is resetting its body weight set point. So that's a good thing. Keep doing what you're doing as you go down. I've seen people that they'll stall for like a week or 2 weeks, and I've seen people that'll stall for almost a year. But they keep doing it, and all of a sudden it kicks back in and it starts going down again. It depends on where your health is in the first place and what your nutrition was during that. Does that make sense? So that's why the whole decreased calories and exercise more is bogus and never, ever, ever works.
And I'll just comment on that because when I first started the carnivore, I was eating 25 to 35 ounces of beef a day, and my weight was going down.
Yeah.
I mean, with fat and everything in it,
Yeah.
it was like, this doesn't make logical sense to me, but it was working. But now it does.
No, there is a quiz.
Yeah. Thank you.
Steve, will you give examples? I think where people get confused sometimes, I don't know about this audience, but it's like eat fat, and then it's like, oh, you're going to lose fat. There's two different fats, right? We're not talking about that.
No,
and then give
that's what I'm
folks
saying.
examples of fats they can eat: butter, avocado.
Yes,
milk,
fat you can eat.
examples.
One, eating fat does not cause fat. High insulin causes fat. Eating fat does not raise your insulin levels at all. That's all a lie. That's all bogus. Well, the fat you want to stick with. Okay, vegetables don't have fat. That's why you have these seed oils and they have all these chemicals, because they don't have fat. You want fruit fat, which is avocados, olives, and coconut. So olive oil, extra virgin olive oil. Extra virgin just means it doesn't have to go through all the chemical process. It's pretty much just cold pressed. So extra virgin olive oil, avocado oil, and then coconut oil. Those three oils are good. Those are fruit oils. Those are fine to eat. And then obviously lard and tallow. So that's your pig fat and your beef fat. Those are the ones that you want to cook in. Those are the ones you want to have. And again, then if you go in and get something fried and at a restaurant or anything, chances are they're going to be in soybean oil or some kind of vegetable oil. So that's why you want to stay away from fried foods on there. It's because of the seed oils that fried in. So you may have a really good piece of chicken and you could have eaten it that way, but instead you go and you put it in the seed oil and it kills it. You can eat any of this stuff. This isn't that hard. We eat all kinds of stuff. You go out and eat a burger. I love hamburgers. So when I first started learning about this, I thought, I'm not gonna eat my hamburgers anymore. Come to find out, what I do is I order the hamburger, I'll order a double patty, I want the mushrooms, the bacon, the cheese. You load that puppy down. I just don't want the bun.
Yeah.
And instead of the fries, I get butter broccoli because I don't want the seed oils. The reason why that's important is because when you eat protein and fat, your insulin levels do not go high. So when you eat protein and fat, the hamburger and all the other stuff on it without the bun, you eat that, it gets digested, goes in your blood, and your bloodstream carries that around to all the parts, all the things that your body uses fat for, all the things your body uses protein for. You eat a bun, now you just put glucose in your body. Once you put glucose in the body, your body produces insulin. Once you produce insulin, it Things change. Now your insulin levels are high, so all you can do is force glucose into your muscles and force fat into your fat cells. So all the fat that you may have had in that hamburger, now you're actually stuffing that in your fat cells too. Does that make sense? So that's why, yes, just the matter of fact of taking the bun off helps a lot. If you have diabetes or anything glucose problems, stay away from potatoes. Stay away from all the stuff that grows underneath the ground. Starch is long chains of glucose is all it is. So that's why I get rid of the potatoes. I don't with the seed oils. I don't care about the potatoes itself. I mean, I'll eat potatoes, but I don't. But stay with that, and then go with something like buttered broccoli, real butter. Yeah, butter's the other good fat. Butter's good fat. Anything from the kind of fat that's in milk, Greek yogurt. You do not want, if it says low fat or fat free, stay away from it. Because look at the ingredients. If you get salad dressings, okay, exact same company, whoever, Hidden Valley or whatever, I don't even know what they are. But you have a regular, you have a low fat and fat free, exact same thing, blue cheese, whatever it is. Look at this back. As it goes down in fat, it goes up in carbohydrates.
Yep.
They put more sugar in because you're losing your fat.
Yep.
It's a lie. If it's a fat free or anything, get rid of it. Greek yogurt, get the highest percent of fat that you can find in your Greek yogurt, which is only about 5%. But still, it's better than nothing. Does that make sense? Did I answer your question?
Yeah.
That's good, Steve.
And this is all. And guys, drugs, medications, anybody who has any medication, you can tell it to me and I will show you. They all have at least 30, 40, we call it adverse effects. That means harmful effects. What that means, what an adverse effect means, is they made a drug to fix this symptom, but come to find out, that actually affects all these other cells, all these other things in your body, and so it harms those. That's what an adverse effect is. We tried to fix this and it screwed this up. Most drugs have anywhere 30 to 50, and then some of them, like the GLP-1s and statins, they have like up to 70, some of them over 100. Blood pressure medicine, oh my gosh. It's crazy how many adverse effects that all these medications have. Seriously, if anybody wants to hit me after this and say, well, I'm on this medication, what adverse effects? I'll show you. I had a girl that just asked me that the other day. She's on 4 different psych meds. 4 different psych meds, and I printed off the adverse effects, line by line by line by line. It took 24 pages to show all the adverse effects between those 4 drugs.
Wow.
These drugs, they're dangerous.
Yeah.
They're dangerous. So please try to fix your health with nutrition, because that's what your body needs. That's what God made us to use. If you have to treat a symptom for a little bit, like if you start eating healthy, your glucose is going to go down because you're not eating it. So your glucose is going to go down. If you eat healthy and you're on diabetic medication, now you are risking your glucose going too low. Because you lowered your glucose because you quit eating it, but now you're still taking this diabetic drug that increases your insulin, so it makes your blood glucose low. That's when you have to worry about hypoglycemia. If you eat carnivore or if you eat animal-based products, you don't have to worry about your blood sugar going low. You don't have to worry about any of that stuff that you have to worry about when you're eating all these vegetables and all this sugar and everything. So try to do this all naturally. Do it natural. Stay away from this stuff. The only drug I know that I would say that is a safe drug is Tylenol. That's the only one. And they get such a bad rep because they put Tylenol in everything. So it's mainly because people are overdosing on Tylenol. Now they're, because of autism, all the vaccines are causing autism in all these kids. And now the drug companies say, no, it's because it's Tylenol, because you get Tylenol. It's bull. It's all crap. Tylenol, if I told you they all have 50, 60 Tylenol, oral Tylenol has like 4. And they're all just silly little things. There's nothing there.
Most people take it non-stop is the problem. They take it like over.
Well, they take it. You go to the OTC shelf, and it's like, oh, I want this for pain, and I want this for my cold, and I want this, and they all have Tylenol, and people don't realize it. So people are overdosing on Tylenol. That's the only problem. You're going to get sick if you overdose on anything. You can overdose on water. Very easily you can overdose on water.
Yeah.
So if you see a little girl, which I did, I had a little girl walk around, 20-year-old, with a gallon jug of water, saying that's what she was supposed to drink that day.
No.
So where did you hell that? No. Ideal body weight divided by 2. That's the number of ounces you need to be drinking of water, not a gallon when you're only 5'2". It's ridiculous. So anyway, that's my talk. I'm done. I hope that wasn't too much
That was
over your
good.
head.
It was good. Does anyone have any more questions for Dr. Hewlett? Is everyone blown away like, oh my gosh, I'm just eating all day and nothing else?
Can we have these books? Or would you like me to?
Those books are actually,
Yes, for
if you
sale.
buy them through Amazon, they're $15, so I'm getting everybody a 33% discount. If you want a book, it's only $10.
$10,
Yeah,
okay,
don't
cool.
worry.
So it's-
That's
whatever.
an easy fix, man.
I don't know what.
Take the blood, take the blood.
So we just have a couple more announcements as we're wrapping everything up. If you guys did not know, we do have a raffle going on today for a few prizes back there. They're $5 per entry. If you guys are interested, take a look at that stuff. Really good prizes. There's the sheet that explains the value of each product that you get, and there's fact sheets about them. And then Billy is going to bring up an event that we're going to do following this one in 2 weeks from now. And she's getting ready to explain what that follow-up workshop is going to be. Oh, okay. Well, the workshop is going to be on March 14th, and it is going to be a follow-up with